ladder starts from the lowest tier and works its way to the top tier, right? So imagine you have a building. The building has a bottom level, okay? Has a bottom level, which is the basement. It has a ground level, which is where everybody comes in, signs in, whatever. All right. Then you have the next tier, which is the area where most of the offices are.
Welcome to the Social Mojo Podcast, the place where entrepreneurs and creatives come to discover the secrets behind building a powerful, engaging brand without spending a fortune. Let's meet the host, Mr. Anthony Porter, your guide on this journey to harness the power of organic social media. In each episode, we dive deep into the strategies that work, sharing insights, actionable tips, and success stories from experts and trailblazers who've done it all. From planning your content with precision, growing your audience authentically, to monetizing your passion effectively, we've got you covered. So, whether you're just starting out or looking to elevate your social media game, stay tuned. Because here, at the Social Mojo Podcast, we're all about making your brand unforgettable, organically.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Anthony Porter here, Social Mojo Podcast. Hey, today we're going to take that deep dive. We're going to get started. This is day one. Day one of the 12 days of podcasting. All right. It's very important. It's very essential. And I'm telling you, man, it's very impactful. So make sure you got a pen. Make sure you got a piece of paper. If you're listening to this, make sure you can write all of this stuff down. If not, if you're watching this on video, you'll be able to see some of the stuff that we're going to talk about. At the same time, you still need a pen and a piece of paper to jot down some of this information. Now, with that being said, we're not going to hold you. Today, we're going to talk about what is the podcast ladder. So this is part of the mastering the 4 skills in day one that we're going to discuss. All right. So imagine you have a building. All right. So the ladder starts from the lowest tier and works its way to the top tier. Right. So imagine you have a building. The building has a bottom level. Okay. Has a bottom level, which is the basement. It has a ground level, which is where everybody comes in, signs in, whatever. All right. Then you have the next tier, which is the area where most of the offices are, and then up top is where the head honcho is, where where basically it's the top tier. All right. So when we use ladders in podcasting and funnels and things like that, the ground level, the basement, is where we give you something for free. The ground level is where you have a portion of your podcast or your business that you're offering at a very low price point. The third level is where you can take them from that low ticket price point to basically, I call it mid-level. And then the very top point, of course, is your high ticket area. So once we get from the bottom, because the bottom in the podcast is just where we start. We want to get to the top to where we have a thriving podcast. We're talking consistent growth with a solid foundation of monetization. Now, at the bottom, like I said, at the bottom, you've got your podcaster who's not getting any results. They publish like consistently every day or every week. However they want to do it, they're posting. But the download numbers never go up. Never go up. Okay? They just never reach that point. So how do we fix this? What is the way to do? Now, you see podcasts on top of the ladder. They have mastered these 4 skills. They have checked all 4 of those most important, delicate boxes off to the side, and they've gotten to the point where they are reaching the pinnacle of the podcast value ladder, right? So, podcast at the bottom has not mastered these skills. I've been there. If you're listening to this and you're brand new and you're wanting to start a podcast, you're right there with me. You're right there. But there's nothing wrong with being there because you're doing something that you're in the 1% because 99% of the people don't do this step that you're doing right now. And that's take action, listening to something, and gaining a wee bit of value. So let's find out what it actually is. Trust me, you cannot skip. You cannot skip the steps going up the ladder. As a kid, used to run up a ladder. Up some steps. I said a ladder. Run up some steps. You might start on the bottom and then you skip 2 and get to 3 and then skip 3 and get to 5. Step 5. Yeah, no, we can't do that here. All right, so we're on the bottom level. You might be absolutely guaranteed to be a pro at level 3. But if you haven't mastered level 1, you will have no results as a podcaster. That means your skills are stuck at 0. It means you're just saying whatever, doing whatever. And basically you're not, you haven't gotten to the point. Now you've got content out there. And you got a bunch of friends following you. But you haven't reached the pinnacle of the Flynn's, the Rogans, the Tim Ferriss's, Pat McAfee shows, and most of your sports podcasts. You haven't reached the pinnacle of $1 million worth of game, the Joe Budden podcast, Drink Champs, Beehive. Beehive is a podcast out of Atlanta. He brings in a lot of artists from down that way. And I'll tell you right now, I've enjoyed listening to the Beehive. Dude's podcast is super dope. Like I said, I enjoy it. He taps into the Atlanta hip hop scene, and I've learned a lot from some of my favorite artists that I grew up listening to. Outkast, Goody Mob. I'm finding out, I'm finding out there's a lot of things that went on that we didn't know about that we're finding out about now. So, with that being said, what are the 4 levels of the podcast ladder? All right, level 1. Ooh-wee. Hey man, CTA. I'm gonna put my show. I put my show when I first started this in this level, this category, level 1. This is where it all begins. All right. And I call it CTA because it's category 1, not call to action. That's CTA. This is CAT. I'm sorry, I said it wrong. CAT premise. We on the bottom. We Flintstones. We in bedrock right now. Fred, Barney, Wilma, all of them. The dog, everybody. Bam, bam. We here. Okay. We at the bottom, but we at category 1, which means that your show truthfully, is one of a kind. Means honestly, nobody's listening to it. There's no other podcast. There's no other podcast like this on the planet. So you have to be able to have a unique feel, a unique sense of credibility, a unique sense of in your genre. No matter what you're talking about, this has to be rather unique. Like if you look at the Social Mojo podcast and you look at anybody else's podcast, we're trying to help businesses. A lot of people are bringing business attention from other businesses and they're teaching you how to do business. Trust me, I'm watching some of them because I'm learning a lot. But then you have some that we want to get your mojo juiced up. So the question is how do you achieve this level? Excuse me. Well, to create a category 1 premise, you have to have a unique contribution of these 3 things. I hope you write this down. You have to be able to create an audience who the show is strictly for. You have to have a mission. What will your show do for those listeners? And then you have to have a format, excuse me. And that format is how the show will do it. Whether you have interviews, monologues, etc. You have to have that. That's to be category number one. Now, this is the hardest level of the podcast ladder. All right. It's very easy to get lost in that particular stage. It's hard. It's hard to get lost in this stage. You have no idea how to define your audience. I've been there. It's hard to declare an actual podcast mission if you haven't defined your audience. And then most definitely a weekly 45-minute interview format, which is no longer ideal. I told you in the intro, the things have changed. So a lot of resistance in this stage. It's a lot of things that will keep you from getting to that point. And there's a lot of things that will keep you from moving forward. So you don't want to be in a pigeonhole. You definitely don't want to be in the pigeonhole. You don't want to narrow down your audience because you're worried. That means a smaller audience. No, you don't want to do that. And you already have invested time and money. So those three things, you don't want to put yourself behind the 8 ball, basically is what it's saying. Number two, you don't want to water down your situation with your audience because you need your audience to grow, to help you grow and monetize. And then you don't want to lose the money you've already invested. All right. So, but here's the thing. You have to understand, here's the thing. Level one is the most crucial level of the ladder. You could be the best podcast in the world. You could be top notch. But, and I say that with a stern but, if 2, 3, and 4, if you're not locked in, you're not going to get to level one. You're not going to be clear on category one. So your show will really be hard to grow if you don't get 2, 3, and 4 down pat. So with that being said, there are tons and tons and tons of celebrities, presidents, newscasters, sports figures. They've experienced this, man. They have experienced this. They are the pinnacle where they have literally, and I do mean literally, had the best team in the world who could easily supply levels 2 through 4, but they didn't have a clear Cat 1 premise. They are no longer podcasting. They've dipped. I've seen things, man, listen. You can take this and use this in your business just as well. Because see, there's a young influencer who has over 2-3 million followers and can't sell t-shirts. That ain't what they want. They didn't target the right audience. So guess what? They're not selling. All right. So we don't want you to have the same fate. So days 2, 3, and 4 of the 12 days of podcasting growth, we're going to cover deep dive. We're going to put the scuba gear on. We're going to dive into it. In order for us to achieve a category 1, we got to get through days 2, 3, and 4. Now, once we achieve that and we're moving straight forward, going up the ladder, the podcast ladder, that's going to be the best thing for you. Level 2 is audience retention, keeping your listeners coming back. Now, that game right there, trust me, it's not just about getting eyes and ears. It's about keeping them. You want to be able to keep them. You want to be able to retain the people who are literally clicking and downloading, who are interested. Something you did made them interested in what it is that you do. But in order for you to keep them, you have to be able to grasp them, hook them, reel them, and lock them down. So ask yourself this. Are you consistent in your publishing schedule? Do your episode titles grab their attention? What about the first 60 seconds of the episode? Makes, it irresistible. Are your listeners sticking around for the whole show? What are your What are your confirmation rates? And then you got to ask this. Are you reminding your existing audience about new episodes? So, again, these are things that, and I hope you wrote that down. These are things that will keep your people coming around. And the last one is very important because when you're ending an episode, you need to tell them what the next episode is. So that means that you need to be planning ahead of time. All right. So by planning ahead of time, you know what your next episode is going to be about. Guess what you can do? That's going to help them understand exactly what they can look forward to when the new episode comes out. So if you are unsure about these answers, we have ourselves had that problem. In the past, what I just say, I started in 2017, so I'm going to say the past 7 years that I've been podcasting, I've run into each one of these questions several times over. And every podcaster has had a growth problem. Most, though, actually have the retention problem. Sometimes the growth issue is not the audience. They just don't know how to keep them engaged. So retention is the problem. You can keep your listeners. That is your goal. You can keep your listeners if that is your goal to monetize, to grow, scale, and monetize. You have to understand how to keep everyone in. All right. Keep everyone locked in. Keep everyone right there with you. Building a community is very important. So that's one thing that you have to do. You have to build a community. So you want to keep them in? Hey, certain things you got to do. Now, real quick pro tip to this is when you're doing your podcast, understand me when I say the most important part is not only reeling them in, not only letting them know what the next episode is going to be, okay? But you have to have all your ducks in a row. You have to understand that visual and audio play a part. You have to understand that once you offer something for your listeners as a podcaster, then it makes it easier because you don't want to get stuck. It makes it easier. You don't want to keep the same amount of listeners. You want to grow. You want people to talk about you. So you have to give them something that's they're able to talk about. So you have to look at your. So here's what people feel when they look at their numbers. They see, oh, I got this download. I got that download. I run into this problem. The problem is, it's not that you got downloads. Are they the same people? Understanding your metrics is way more important than just getting the downloads. Trust me. See, every episode has the same number of listeners. Yes, but most of these listeners are not the same people. I'll say it again. Every episode has the same amount of listeners, but not every episode has the same people coming back to it. You understand what I'm saying? So, if you listen to one episode, you want them to listen to another episode, you have to be able to grab their attention, hook them in. Hook, line, and sinker is what we call it. Some stick around, some don't stick around. You have to have a compelling message that will make a person want to continue to listen. Your format has to be perfect. I mean, it has to be darn near perfect because you want to make sure that they understand that what you're telling them, the information you're giving them, is essential to taking the actions and making sure that everything gets done properly. Okay. So sometimes you can run into situations like you're trying to picture this. Picture you trying to fill a wicker basket with water. A wicker basket with water. It's not going to work. No matter how hard you try or how hard you turn the faucet on, you can't fill that basket. So once you learn how to keep your listeners, your podcast will go from the wicker basket to a steel bucket. You want that water pail. then the water levels is going to just disappear. It's going to stay up. You're going to get there much faster and with less effort. So that's something we're going to talk about through days 5 through 7. We're going to teach you how to keep your listeners. All right. And as you're sitting here listening to this, I'm telling you exactly what I told you in the intro video. Everything that we're going to do is going to come through in certain orders. I'm letting you know, days 5 through 7, we're going to teach you how to keep your listeners. All right. Now, it is at that point that you are ready for level 3. So we're already at level 1, 2. Now we get ready for 3, and that's podcast growth. You want that? You want to collaborate? How do you grow your audience? A lot of things is right there. So how do you grow your audience? That's the greatest question that has ever been asked when it comes to podcasting. There are 2 parts to that. When you share the 2 ingredients of podcast growth, you're going to say, oh, damn, what the hell? I already know that. You're right. You probably do. So the 2 ingredients, if you're sticking with me, if you're right here with me, I hope you're still here. You better still be here. All right. The 2 ingredients that are obvious, the 2 ingredients that are obvious and they click for that reason and they just freaking work together like hand in a glove. But most podcasters, they don't do them. They do either one wrong or they don't do it with consistency. All right. And the 2 ingredients are social media and podcast guesting. Well, we're going to talk to you about that in days 8 and 9. That's the roadmap. Social media and podcast guesting. Here are the 2 keys to unlock level number 3. To achieve growth on social media, not by promoting, but by participating. Not everything has to be a sale. Not everything has to be a sale. You don't have to sell. If you go in there and participate, and trust me, I will talk about this on one of the regular days on the Social Mojo podcast. See, because for me, I use Instagram as one of my main platforms. Instagram and YouTube. I'm building my YouTube channel, but Instagram is one of my main platforms. My bio is the first thing that they're going to see. My bio talks before they even look at my content. So you're going to learn how on day 8 how to use these platforms. You're going to hear what you're thinking. I already know I hate social media. I hate posting. I hate this. I hate that. A lot of people say you don't need to post on social media. They are God bless it lie. 3.5 billion people are on social media. 2.5 million are on Facebook every 30 seconds. 2.5 million are on Instagram every 30 seconds. You're trying to reach people and you don't have no money for paid ads? You better get to posting, my people. So once you understand that, and we get through day 8, on day 9, we're going to dive into guest podcasting. So day 8, we're going to discuss social media. Day 9, we're going to talk about guest podcasting. Now, I'm going to give you a good glimpse into this because think about this. You have somebody on your show. Like I have a couple people I have lined up. One is a internet radio host. Another runs his own podcast, and it's a group of them. Then there's a guy in New York that I want to reach out to. I want to do it. When I'm reaching out, it's a business. So I want to do it the proper way. So once I reach out to him, I want him to send me an email. And then we're going to discuss the questions. What's off limits? What's on limits? And then we're going to set it up to where he can book his podcast. All right, he's going to give me a date. We're going to get it cracking. And once we get it cracking, it's a beautiful thing. All right. So how you do that, let me give you this quick tip real quick. How you do that is you ask somebody to be on your show. For me, because I use Riverside, once I record an episode, I'm able to break my episode down into short clips for shorts. So remember, one piece of content. Now I have taken one piece of content, and it may be 6 to 8 shorts. Now I have the one long-term video. I can now take those 6 to 8 shorts. I can upload them to YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. So that's 3, 6, 9, 10 pieces of content already, right? You got it? And we'll talk about how we can monetize more, because there's more to it. There's more to it, but there's no better place to find more podcasts. So how we do that? Hey, listen, here's what I'm going to do. If you get on my show, I'm going to send you the entire show and the clips. You can upload them however you want on your platform and have your people chiming in. That's all we need you to do. Because if they start to see that, oh, I'm on a podcast, I'm heard, I'm this and I'm that, they're going to come back. They're going to, whose show was you on? They get to ask. Now they're searching for you. Okay? They're searching for you. So that's how you do this. And once we get out of day 9, then it's time to monetize. And once you start monetizing, this is where your sponsors come in. This is where people want to do paid promotions on your show, on your channel, on your Instagram. They want to they want to get to know you. They want to get to spending money with you. Why is all of this so important? Because I talked about it in the first step, the podcast ladder. We started at the bottom. We're trying to work our way up. Category 1 is where we want to get to. We want to be able to sit there. We want to be able to define ourselves. We want to be able to grow. We want to monetize. We want to make money. We want to do it the right way. We want to get past episode 3. All right. We want to get past episode 3. So, like I told you, day 2, we are definitely going to get into day number 2. I want to make sure I tell you right. I don't want to give you the wrong ones. All right. So give me a quick second to look at this. Look at my notes of day 2. Yep, here we are. Day 2, we are going to define the audience. All right. We're gonna talk about how do you find your audience. This is day 2. All right. So again, felt this content was helpful for you, subscribe to the podcast, download an episode or 2. All right. We're getting into podcast growth. Day number 2. You can find us everywhere, mainly on Apple, Spotify, Google Music, YouTube. It's where you're going to find us. All right. I hope you gained a whole lot of knowledge from this, because I enjoy giving you this information. All right. It's your man, Anthony Porter, Social Mojo Podcast. We out of here. Day 1 is over. Get ready for day 2. I'll see you on day 2, man. Peace.
And that wraps up another episode of the Social Mojo Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and spending your time with us today. We hope you found our conversation insightful and engaging. Don't forget to subscribe to the Social Mojo Podcast on your favorite platform, and be sure to download the episodes so you never miss out on our latest content. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us continue bringing you great discussions every week. A special thank you to our incredible executive producers, Sincere and Charlie Straughter, Rhea Cash, and Theory Porter. Your vision and dedication make this podcast possible. Remember, the Social Mojo Podcast is a proud part of the Amplify Pod Academy, where we strive to amplify voices and share stories that matter. Until next time, stay connected and keep the mojo flowing. Bye.